This is AVGN DVD Volume 8. Thank you once again for all your support. This is the commentary of the past year. Now, the last DVD left off at the end of 2013, so we're going to pick it up from here. As I said on the last commentary, that 2013 was a very hectic, very stressful year, but 2014 was a very focused year, focused on just finishing the movie, because I didn't want to be working on this thing up till 2020, the way it was going, you know, so it was just, had to really push hard to finish it. The first quarter of the year, we finished the majority of the visual effect shots for the movie. Then we went on to sound and music. The entire sound design of the film got done. And then booking theaters, and then traveling and showing it around, and then getting it ready for a digital online release, and then the DVD and doing all the bonus features for that. So this was a very focused year. It was all about finishing the movie. It was the 10-year anniversary of The Nerd, so it was a very eventful year, and you know, what better way to celebrate than with a whole feature-length film. But as a result, you see that there weren't as many episodes. Even though I paced myself very well, I got enough episodes done in advance where they were spaced out really well, so every few months there would be a new Nerd episode. But it may seem like 2014 was a slow year with the episodes, but it didn't feel like it at all to me, because I was working so hard on the movie the whole time. So for me, it was just AVGN, nothing but AVGN. But there just is a few episodes to show for it. So let's just get into it and start talking about the episodes. So let's go back to the end of 2013. This was, the first one was the AVGN Games episode. Over the years, we've got tons of AVGN fan-made games, and it was really cool. The first one was Eric Ruth. You got to give him credit. He was the first one to come up with the idea to put the whole thing full circle, because the Nerd critiques games. Well, what if the Nerd was in his own shitty game? And he did a good job on it. I mean, even though it was like lots of things in it were made to be bad on purpose, but still, you know, for a game that was made by one guy, it was pretty good. I don't know anything about designing games. I only critique them as the nerd, so it's all for fun. But this first game, it was a big deal at the time because it was the first ever Nerd video game. And then lots of them followed over the years, so I would get them a lot. And you know what's really funny is that it's very true that I never played many of them till years later, because I own a Mac. That's what I edit on. I've edited on Final Cut Pro for 10 years or more, and you know, I don't own a PC, and that's what all video games seem to be. If they're on a computer, they're on a PC, not a Mac. So I don't know any. It's been so long since I've used a PC, and I just, it's hard to get into something different when you don't have the time for it to learn it. So Mike and I are the same thing. You know, we edit on Macs, so a lot of these games kind of piled up over the years where we just didn't get around to playing them for a while because they're on PC. But then the AVGN Adventures game came out, and that was the biggest AVGN game of all, which was made by a guy, Sam Beddoes, who did a great job. And Screw Attack basically made this whole game, and it was the first time where it was like I was officially endorsing the game. Other than that, I didn't have much involvement with it. It was just, they would show me the game every now and then and say, hey, is this cool? And I would check it out and be like, yeah, that looks good. You know, so they would show me the progress, but other than that, I wasn't very involved. Sam knew, and all the guys at Screw Attack knew the Nerd's humor. They knew the episodes and everything, so it was like, it wasn't hard for them to put the jokes into the game. And they made a game that very much fits in tune with the episodes. It was a very hard game, and that was one of the points of it, that it is a game that the Nerd would complain about for its difficulty. The death blocks, you know, I think that's the thing everybody talks about, that they're really they're just all over the place. You can't avoid them, so that's always probably the hardest part of the game. That's probably the only thing I would say they went too far on, but everything else, they did a really great job. You know what my problem in the game? I have the most unique problem of all, is just that I always have a bad sense of direction. So every time I die and then I start again at the checkpoint, I don't remember if I was going left or right. and I'd do it all the time where I would go backwards, and I'd be playing it with Mike, and he'd be like, "You're going the wrong way," and I do it all the time. And speaking of Mike, it's funny, he's in the game, and Mike played the game before I did, so when I was playing, sometimes he would give me like tips. He'd be like, "Oh, you should use Mike on this part." And it's Mike saying, "You should use Mike." So that was pretty funny. So because this AVGN Adventures game was out, it was the perfect time to do a whole nerd episode about all the AVGN games that were made over the years. And actually, it was hard to even keep track of them because there were so many. Even after I was done doing the video, I got another one. A fan sent me a game called Rob Revenge. It was on the Atari 2600, and it was basically a hack of Berserk, but with Rob the Robots in it. So it goes on and on and on. But because there were so many games, and most of them were not on cartridges, most of them were on PC, so that made it, difficult. So Mike and I finally decided, we're like, you know what, we need a PC so we can play these games, So Mike bought a PC specifically for this video, for the AVGN Games video. I was busy working on the Alien 3 video at the time. And meanwhile, Mike was working on trying to figure out how to use this PC and everything, mainly how to get the game footage off the PC so that we could edit it on our Mac so that we could make the video. So he spent probably a month working out all these technical bugs just so that when I finished the Alien 3 video, I'd be all set to work on this next one. So the first thing is we try to record the footage on the PC. And everybody keeps saying, like, why don't you use Fraps? We used Fraps. It didn't work on every game. It worked on some games, but not all of them, because all these games were fan-made games, so a lot of them would be something different about each game. So every game, there was some different way we had to record it. And then when we did get it recorded, whenever we were able to successfully record a game, then we had to figure out how to get it onto the Mac so that we could edit the footage and make the video. So Mike and Ryan, who does our web design at cinemassacre.com, he worked with Mike to build him a PC computer and to get a FireWire port on it so that they could get the footage off. And then they also tried something with a network. They tried actually sending the footage from the one computer to the Mac over a network, and that didn't work because it was too slow, and the footage, it was the large files. So they eventually got it through the FireWire. They got it onto the Mac, but it would always be a different kind of file format. So then they would have to convert the file so that it could actually play on the Mac. And then once they would do that, a lot of times the footage would be all messed up.
Look at this shit. Look what it's doing. Obviously that's not right.
And I think with the AVGN Adventures game, we eventually did get the footage to work, but it always had this yellow sort of stripe at the bottom. Or like a lot of times with the text, you would see that the bottom part is yellow. And we don't know why it did that, but that was better than all the other glitches that we had. So we were happy to have that. For the rest of the games, we recorded it straight onto the camera. So we couldn't even bother with anything anymore, so we just filmed it straight off the screen, which was a real pain in the ass. So every one of those games that I'm playing, it was a nightmare. And there were so many games too, so it was just hours and hours of just back-breaking, wrist-breaking hours of just trying to record all these games. And as far as the sound goes, the audio, we could have probably recorded it onto the actual built-in microphone on the camera, but we didn't want to do that. Because Mike and I were talking while we were playing the games and stuff, so we needed clear, uninterrupted sound. So to get good, clean sound, we ran a cable from the PC all the way into the Mac, so it was recording the audio in real time. So basically we had the video file that was recorded on the camera, and then we had the audio file that was recorded onto the Mac. We would have to sync up the audio and the video for every one of those games in every clip that we recorded. Another notable thing about the AVGN Games AVGN episode was that Board James makes a cameo because a fan sent me an AVGN Monopoly game. So we thought it was perfect to bring Board James in, and I've been wanting to try and bring Board James back for so long. I want to get those episodes going again, but right now it's just on halt because of, Whenever there's time free from the movie, I work on the episodes. Whenever there's time free from the episodes, which there never is, then it's like, you got to be caught up with one thing first before you can move on. But it was always a weird thing. I never knew if having Board James in a nerd episode would work, because it's the same guy, basically. It's me. Like, I don't really change anything other than the hat, So I didn't know if that was going to work. I thought about it for a while, but then I did it, and it seemed to work pretty well. The hard thing, though, when you film those split screen kind of things where you have one person sitting next to, you film yourself once and then you film yourself again from the other side as the other character. The hardest thing about doing that is getting the timing right, because when the other character's saying the line, you need to be the other character needs to be listening. And you need to give enough time. And no matter how many times I do it, no matter how many times I say the line in my head, sometimes I even have like a recording that I like interact off of. No matter how many times I do it, it always seems like I'm not giving enough time, because then when you go to edit, it's all screwed up and the characters' lines are overlapping one another. So it's hard to get the master shot. So most of the time you're always just seeing the close-ups of just the talking heads going back and forth, because that's a lot easier. Then there is the AVGN Christmas episode, which we do every year. So this was the wish list episode. Originally we were going to call it Wish Book, because it was very much focused on the wish books, those old books from Sears, which, it's explained in the video. But that was very nostalgic for Mike and I. Mike found those books, and I guess he got them off eBay or something, and he showed them to me, and I was like, wow, I remember these. So it was really a trip. That really took me back to the past with those wish books. And the nature of the episode, at first we didn't know what we were doing. Mike and I talked about it, and Mike would always tell me, this game has a lot of requests, and that game has a lot of requests. He showed me a game, for example, Bubsy, and I looked at it, and I played it for a little bit, and I was like, I don't know, it's not really giving me enough material. It's bad, it's a bad game, but I don't really know if I can make a great episode on that. And then there's all the talk about the Sonic games, and it was just like there were so many requests that I didn't really think would have been good for a full episode. So whenever there was something like that, I thought, why don't we just take a bunch of short episodes and throw it all into one thing, kind of like with How the Nerd Stole Christmas, which was one of my favorite of the Nerd Christmas specials, because it tackled a bunch of games really fast. And it's like, does it always have to be this long, detailed critique? Sometimes I just want it to be something short and funny, something concise and to the point. So we did that, and it was just self-explanatory, just a bunch of basic game reviews, and it was answering some of the requests. So it really was like a Christmas gift. It was like, this was the fans' wish list. So I think it was a perfect idea. The next one, the first episode of 2014, was Big Rigs. Big Rigs was a game I always wanted to do for a long time, but there was one problem. It was a PC game. So Mike and I, like I already talked about, we had to figure out a way to record PC games, and that was the reason why we were never able to get to it for so long. And then since we went out of our way to figure out all the technical issues with the AVGN Games one, now we finally were ready to to do it. We were like, okay, we got it figured out. It was still a huge pain. Actually, I remember I tried to record Big Rigs on my Mac many years ago on a program called Parallels, which runs Windows on a Mac, and I tried it, and it didn't really. It actually was, the game would run, but it was very glitchy, like extremely glitchy. The truck would leave like a trail, and the game itself is already glitchy, so it was even more glitchy, if you could believe it. Besides the technical hurdles, Big Rigs was another one that for a while I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. I always thought maybe it could just be a James and Mike video. Actually, when Mike was doing his glitch series, just doing a bunch of glitches in games, we thought maybe Big Rigs could be like the last episode of that, because it was like the most glitchiest game of all time. But then eventually I decided, what, this will work as a nerd episode. I see the reason I wasn't sure before, because the game is so bad. It's like, how do you even critique it? It's like, it's by far the worst game that the nerd has ever reviewed, if you count it as a game, because I mean, you can't you can't lose. It's just it's shocking. Still, it's hard to believe, how did that game go so wrong? That made it perfect, but it was kind of hard to figure out, how do I critique what is so obvious already. I tried to make the video just basic, just how you would normally react to it while you're playing. So I would improv a lot in that video and just kind of react to what's happening on screen and just let it be what it is. The most fun part of the video, obviously, was the commercial. It was really fun to do that. I even copied it onto VHS just so that it would look like it was taped off TV, a long time ago. Although it was kind of odd, because Big Rigs isn't that old of a game. It was from, I almost forget already, I think it was 2003. And I was trying to figure out, should it be widescreen or should it just be, in, square 4:3? So, it could have been either, because it was sort of in that era of technology where it could have gone either way. But I decided to make it more old school, because that's how we, remember a lot of those classic game commercials. And the character was very fun to play. It was probably the first time in a while when I got to play somebody who isn't really the nerd. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's just a new, I call him Mr. Riggs. I just feel like I would like to bring that character back again. He was really fun to play. And the tattoos, my wife drew them all on my arms with markers. They're not real. Actually, two of them are real, actually. I have a Judas Priest tattoo, the trident symbol, and I have a dragon on my arm. So if you see the video, The Dragon in My Dreams, you know where the dragon comes from. Then came the Desert Bus video. This was another one that I heard about for a long time, and I knew the idea. It's just a game where you drive a bus for 8 hours. So I always figured, what am I going to do with that? Like, there isn't much material to work off of. So I always was hesitant on that one. Although it is hilarious that such a game exists, and that it was made by Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller are great entertainers. They put on amazing shows. I've seen them live a couple times, so definitely see them if you ever get the chance. And the game that they made was just completely meant to be a joke, and it was part of the whole Smoke and Mirrors game. And I thought that maybe because I wouldn't get much material off a Desert Bus, I'll just focus on the whole Smoke and Mirrors. There's probably enough with all those mini games to work off of. But then I realized that most of those mini games there isn't really a lot to work off of for a video like this, because a lot of those are just sort of tricks you play on your friends, and I'd kind of be doing a disservice by explaining them all for anyone who wants to try them. Although a lot of those things did not work, unfortunately. I tried a lot of them. For example, I'll just tell you. I mean, there's a game on there where the whole idea is you're playing two players with a friend, and while you're playing, it's like a 2D shooting game, and you put in a little code, a little button command, and then it makes your friend start dying like crazy. So basically you just make it seem like your friend sucks at the game, and you can keep adjusting how much he or she will be losing. And it didn't work for me. I would keep trying the button commands, and it wouldn't work. So a lot of those things I just wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong. So I figured it was best just to focus on the Desert Bus thing, because it actually did turn out that even though it didn't have much material to work on, it's all about how much you milk it. Just push it as far as it can go. To play the game yourself, you just have to find it, because it was never officially released. I know most people have played it online, but somebody sent it to me as a physical disc. So I actually played it on a real Sega CD. It was like a copied disc that somebody made of it. So the whole video while I'm playing, I actually am playing on the real Sega CD. This was also the Nerds 10-year anniversary episode, and I've already done every kind of thing I could think of for like a special event kind of video, so I didn't really know what to do with this other than just make a regular video. But I think it turned out really well with the Castlevania Redacted thing at the end. That was a good way to end it. I always thought that would make like a good kind of special video or something, but there wasn't enough material with that one to make a whole episode, so that's why it ended up at the end of Desert Bus. So that was another one I wasn't really sure what to do, because Mike and I were talking about it for a while, because we were thinking so should maybe do something with Jekyll and Hyde or Simon's Quest, and I'm just like, I've done it. I mean, I've already done the revisited episodes and everything, so we were all out of ideas for what to do for a 10-year anniversary, but then it all came together, and the timing with the feature film coming out that summer, it was just like the planets aligned. It's the 10-year anniversary. Let's end the video with a cliffhanger for the movie, which isn't the first time I've done that. The Spielberg Games episode was a cliffhanger for the movie, but boy was I wrong. I thought, maybe then the movie would come out right after that, but nope. Many more years in the making, so just a lot more work than I thought. But this time it was going to be the real cliffhanger. That was the whole idea. This is going to be the cliffhanger. It comes out in May, right on the 10-year anniversary, and it was going to lead right into the announcement of the premiere, of premiering the movie at the Egyptian Theater. Unfortunately, we didn't have all the paperwork done with the theater yet. Not everything was set in stone yet, so it was just a little bit too early to announce it. So that's why the video just ends with plain black. I almost thought of saying, AVGN movie coming soon, but I think everybody got the idea. So I think it was better just to leave it vague like that. I think everybody knew. And then the announcement came shortly after, so it was all good timing, the 10-year. So this DVD also includes the Beetlejuice episode. So it was coming back right from the movie. This was actually the first new episode after the movie, unless you count the E.T. review, because we did release that as an online exclusive just for this is the web version of it's confusing. It's like the episode of the scene in the movie. So it was just an episode version of that. And it was just the timing. These two DVDs are coming out at the same time. So I think right now let's just leave E.T. as the movie. Like it's part of the movie. But we did count it as an episode. It was episode 120. So basically that's on the movie DVD as part of the movie, obviously. So we continue with the nerd, with the actual episodes with Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice was another game that was on the list for a long time, especially because it's an LJN game. So I always wanted to try and knock down all the LJN games eventually. I think it was a good episode. I liked that there wasn't much pressure with this one. It was just, it's a Halloween episode. So yeah, we wanted to, get that out in time for, to keep with tradition that it's Halloween. But also, it was kind of like just going back to making a basic episode again. Like, I don't have to plug a movie at the end or anything like that. No big expectations. Just do, what I do. And I had a lot of fun with that one. I really liked the part with the star, Beetlejuice, because the joke was, it could have been a simple line. See, it's all about how you milk things. Like, how far can you go with a joke? It could have just been a simple line that says, this game has more to do with the star Beetlejuice than it does with the movie. Well, I thought, wouldn't it be funny as if you could actually back that up with facts? What if it really does have more to do with the star? So then it was, well, can I figure out any connections with the star of Beetlejuice with the game? And then, I do some research and I'd be like, no, I don't know. This isn't going to work. But then, oh wait, here, this works. I got this. And it's like, oh, here's another fact. Okay, this is good. And then I kept going until it was like, okay, this is good now. So it was just building and building and building on a joke. And then that's what I think makes it funny, when it's just how far are you going to go with something. Destroying the game at the end. It's a classic AVGN tradition that I don't do too often, because I don't typically like to destroy games, for one thing, and I mean, some of these games, it's like you destroy it, it's gone. It's like, even if the game isn't that rare, it's kind of like, is the sacrifice worth it? And it is when it's funny, when it's a fresh thing. But after I've done it so many times, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, well, it's really not that fresh and original anymore. But with Beetlejuice, it hadn't been done for a while, and I thought it was time to do it again. And the game was not destroyed. Most of the time when I do this, I destroy something different. Usually it's another game that is more common. So what I used was, I already forget actually. I think it was a Top Gun game, because those are really common. So I printed out the label and made a fake Beetlejuice game. So that's what it is, and you compare it side by side with the original, and it looks really close. So that's the one I destroyed. Used a hammer to make it a little easier, and that was a good way to end the video. And I think with this past year of nerd episodes, I did a really good job with the endings, because a lot of times that can be the hardest part, is how do you end this? Like, how do you end on a good note, on a funny note. The AVGN Games episode, I delete the file. It was the first time the nerd couldn't destroy a game physically because it's only a file on a computer. The wish list one ends with the nerd. Oh, I forgot to say, with the wish list episode, a lot of times when I'm screaming, my voice peaks, the microphone distorts. It's not shit! I'll do another take and another take and another take, and every time I do another take, it kept peaking. It's not shit! So a lot of times I'm dubbing my voice back in. It's not shit! Basically, I would just say the word over and over and over again, because then I have a lot of options that I can use. So I would use the one that works and just patch up the audio. So that was really a pain in the ass, and I have to do that a lot now, because a lot of times my daughter is upstairs and she's making noise and she's crying, and it's like there's always noise in the house, so it's very hard to do this. So a lot of times if there's a noise from upstairs, then it's like I just have to re-record myself. Sometimes it's easier to just do the audio separate and then dub it in than getting the video audio right at the same time, like now. So but yeah, anyway, I like the endings of a lot of the videos this year. I liked the Big Rigs. It ends with basically a Spaceballs spoof, which is funny in itself because it's like spoofing a spoof. I do have to say, all the videos this past year had a good ending. Now it's all about, how do I end this documentary right now?